Welcome to Uncaged, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe, shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today, we're speaking with Dr. Chris Wachira. Hey, how are you, Chris?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
I'm very, very well. So Chris is working on a lot of really interesting things. She is the founder and chief executive officer of the Wachira Group. And they do really three verticals that are interrelated. One is they are the first Kenyan American winery in the United States. And I'm excited to hear more about Wachira wines in a second. They are also the first Black-owned and woman-owned winery tasting room, which is probably making everyone very thirsty for having a flight of Kenyan American wines. And then last but not least, and certainly not a small task, they are the first Black-owned and woman-owned distributor of wine, beer, and liquor licensed in California. And that is a significant deal as someone who's tried to distribute products. It's no joke. And so it's an incredible business, Chris, and we're excited to learn more about that. But before we get there, tell us a little bit about you and your career.
Okay, let's start. Where do I start? Okay, so my career starts in healthcare. My background is actually in healthcare. I spent, 15 and a half years at Stanford Healthcare. My terminal degree is in nurse practitioning as a healthcare systems leader. And so I spent a good deal of time leading systems using improvement science to identify gaps in systems and processes and figuring out the best outcomes, how to improve current outcomes and how to optimize those outcomes. So that my background in science and a curiosity for like how things are and why things are the way they are is what kind of got me into winemaking.
Cool.
I often talk about, like having folks show up as full representations of who they are and sort of recognizing the intersectionality of who we are, all the little bits and pieces of the mosaic of who we are, and how you bring those to craft careers and mindsets and things like that. So that's healthcare led me to winemaking, and that's where I am today.
So I like that. I like really in some ways, it's the science of healthcare and the analysis, the analytical process. And then that led to you kind of the lovely science of winemaking.
Absolutely.
Anyone who has even dabbled in that area knows that it is a delicate and complex process. So I'm excited to hear about what you and your team have built. Tell me more about the Wachira Group.
So the Wachira Group, I'll start with the first vertical, Wachira wines. So came into the industries, one, from the science aspect of it, but also not finding my palate represented in the industry. So I'm a Kenyan American by birth, born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya. And my mother cooked Kenyan dishes. So we'd have Sunday family dinners, and I would not find a wine that would complement the foods my mother was making. And so I figured, you know what, I'm going to craft something. And I tried it out on my family and they loved it. Tried it on my friends. They loved it. And I was like, I think we have something here. So then introduced it to the market, got licensed in 2017, and the rest is her story. It's been a beautiful journey.
Tell me, you crafted it with the idea of it being flavored for Kenyan food. So tell me a little bit what that actually means. Yeah.
Okay, so Kenyan food is very flavorful. It's spicy, but not in the heat context of it, because we have some very, very hot dishes, like sort of West African, Ethiopian dishes can be super spicy. Kenyan food is flavorful because it has an amalgamation of different spices. So you have the cumin, you have the turmeric, you have all these different spices that are blended in. So it's very, very flavorful. And so you need a wine that complements it, that allows the food to shine as the wine shines. So we need to have it to be nice, very well-rounded, very well balanced. And that's sort of my secret sauce. And that's what I call them, Californian wines with a Kenyan accent. That's the
Sounds like I would like it actually a lot. So tell me more about, is there a red variety, a white variety?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I craft 6 different wines. So I have 2 reds, Cabernet Sauvignon and a Zinfandel, a red Zinfandel. Then I have 2 whites, a Chardonnay and a Muscat, a rosé of Mourvedre, which is a little bit atypical, and then a sparkling white, which is a Blanc de Blanc Chardonnay grape.
Wow. You've got it covered off. That's
Well, I do try to have a party. For me, it's about the wine safari experience. So
what's the most popular of all of those?
it kind of ebbs and flows, to be honest with you. So it started off depending on the time of the year. So now we're going into fall and winter. So we're about to go into our Cabernet Zinfandel season. And then towards the tail end of the year, because it's the holidays, New Year's and everything, our sparkling is the king at that time. The summer months are all about the Chardonnay and the Muscat. So it kind of ebbs and flows. Yeah.
So it's very seasonal. That's amazing. So then tell me a little bit more about the wine tasting room. Where is that? And when can I go?
So this, the vertical, the Caribou by Wachira is our tasting room. It's in downtown Alameda, which is a historical city in of itself, beautiful architectural city. Smart right downtown. It's the first one in the San Francisco Bay Area that is Black and woman owned, which I think, and I highlight that one because it is a feat in of itself. Yes, and yes, it should be recognized, but it's also to sort of shame the industry and the market a little bit because it is 2022, right? I think we should be a little further ahead than we currently
I'm
are.
a little surprised by that, to be honest. When I hear that, I would have thought that there would be more women making, maybe women wine entrepreneurs in various areas,
Yeah, I mean, you know what? And for me, that also speaks to, a lot of other things that sort of drive me to do what I do and why I keep doing it the way I do. The kind of model that I've implemented is, to address sort of the access and equity issues in the industry, for women and for minority, women, in particular. So that's partially why I highlight that. It's in Alameda, and what I do, it's a different type of model because yes, it is the home of Wachira wines, but it's also a space that showcases other makers of color and women and locals. So I have those 3 demographics of wines, of crafters represented in that space. So a lot of folks that do not have a tasting room get to call that space their own. And then what that does, it also introduces the community to a lot of product that you would not find in a conventional store. You'll not find these wines at, say, Trader Joe's or Safeway because they're much smaller batch crafters. A lot of them tend to be women. A lot of them tend to be minority. Some of them are Caucasian, but they just do not produce in large enough batches to where large scale stores would take them. So I get to to introduce folks to a lot of really award-winning, high-quality wines that they wouldn't.
No, it makes sense. And the batches are small, obviously. I mean, for a variety of reasons. Starting out, they'll probably get bigger, hopefully, but certainly a wide variety. And then the last area is soko. So soko, you guys are distributors. So tell me how that works.
So distribution is a completely different animal. Different ball game. So, and we bring in, again, focusing again on equity, on access, equity, looking at producers across the country that are minorities, smaller folks, and we take them across, we introduce them to different markets across the country. So we have distilleries out of New Hampshire, out of Minnesota. We had a distillery out of Georgia that we were distributing in California. We have a wine brand, a beer brand that is locally crafted in Sacramento. And we sort of look to bring all these products to different retailers through e-commerce, but to customers across the country. It's different for us based on resourcing and what is available for folks like myself.
Right.
Yeah, and that's, for me, that's why I've been very intentional about running my business the way I've
and I mean, I'm imagining that it still is relatively small batch in terms of the production of Wachira wines still.
Actually,
correct?
it is and it isn't, because it's a question of getting the right market access. If we find a retailer, say for example, Trader Joe's or a Safeway out there that wants to carry Wachira wines, we're more than capable to produce large enough quantities.
All right, you hear that, Trader Joe's? Or anyone out there?
We just haven't.
Chris is ready for you. Chris is
We are
ready.
ready. And a lot of these other crafters are too. That one of the liquor producers that we distribute out of Minnesota, Du Nord
Mhm.
Social Spirits, they are on Delta Airlines. We distribute
Oh,
them
wow.
onto Delta Airlines out of SFO and LAX. So it's not a small feat, and in Total Wines and more across California. So a lot of us are out here. We have the potential, we have the capability. All we need is opportunity. And that's a lot of times that's what's lacking.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that more opportunity is going to be coming your way. I mean, if we look at some of the broader demographic changes and the pushes in the US, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing as some of the big trends in your space and where you and your team fit into that story.
Well, what's been great, and this is, it's a byproduct of two things. One, the sort of the social reawakening of America, as I call it, and then the COVID pandemic. It forced people to be a lot more socially aware, and so we have a lot of socially conscious consumerism going on. So folks are putting their money behind causes that they believe in. They're buying products from companies that they want to support. Intentionality has shifted, right? Yeah. So that for me has been it's been a great fit for us, because especially existing in this space as we have, and we have a lot of corporate, large corporations that want to spend money towards mentoring and supporting minority-owned businesses, in terms of educating and connect and creating networks and connections for them. So a lot of things that did not exist pre-COVID or pre-George Floyd, for lack of a better term, are existing now.
So I think you're absolutely right that the summer of 2020 definitely was a bit of a awakening for the US, and maybe a vitalization. I don't want to say revitalization, but a vitalization of people thinking about maybe social issues, especially diversity, equity, and inclusion issues, and making strides. Maybe not as many as we need, but some strides. So we're moving slowly but surely in those areas. But, let me shift a little bit and talk about the broader pandemic. I mean, I think of the pandemic as me being quite an antisocial drinker. I was probably drinking privately with family and friends. And so we were consuming a lot of wine. But tell me what the pandemic meant for you and your team and your business, and how you guys did things.
Oh, the pandemic it forced us to shapeshift. It literally did. Because coming into it, 85% of our business was events, festivals, and restaurants and bars. Mm-hmm. All of those ground to a halt at the end of March 31st, 2020, all of that dried up. So we had to pivot almost overnight to rethink our business model, to start pushing our e-commerce platform. We started engaging more in social media, started thinking about free door-to-door deliveries, which we never did before. We did not have a delivery van, so we were hauling these deliveries in our private cars. So, we literally had to rethink real fast on our feet to keep us going. But we did.
The funny thing is that those things are in many respects painful when you're going through them, but they are the foundation for your business. I remember when I started one of my companies that it was always a hallmark that we wanted to make sure we always hit payroll. And there was one month where one of our big investments didn't come through. Mm-hmm. And oh man, scrapping and rerunning the numbers a million ways to make sure that, you make sure that payroll gets met, Right. That scrappy quality is always a success for an entrepreneur.
Talk about character building. It does that to you as a business. It absolutely does.
Exactly. And now, here we are, we find ourselves going into, the back half of 2022, kind of a crazy year, and looking into 2023, certainly any business, including yours, having to face some of the realities of things like inflation and what that's going to mean. What's exciting on the horizon for you? What are some of the challenges that you're thinking about?
Challenges wise, just thinking about, losing some of those larger clients. Losing volume, right? So we have a lot of corporate partners that we work with. but so and a lot of them we're starting to sense them tightening their belts as they don't as they need to reduce their expenses, their expenditure, and all that good stuff. So trying to be creative and smart in that space and figuring out how to stretch those dollars, right, from on the corporate side, and also recognizing, for example, some of our smaller clients, like our wine club members for Wachira Wines, some people may need to put their accounts on hold for a certain period of time. So just having that flexibility to allow people to operate within their budgets.
Yeah. That being said, I got to tell you, I'm listening to the story and I'm thinking, this is the best stocking stuffer ever. I mean, this is a great holiday gift.
It is a wine safari. Where else can you escape in the middle of winter on a safari in the comfort of your own living room?
I'm sure that's what you call it, and I love it. I love the idea of the wine safari. I think that there you go, a wine safari. So tell me a little bit then, and also some of the other elements, some of the challenges that you're seeing.
Well, shipping challenges, supply chain. We still have a little bit of supply chain issues. We're still running low on bottles. I craft my wines in a very specific way. So I don't age them as long as most wineries do, because I like them to have a little bit of that fruit forwardness, which creates a really nice balance. So I'm not getting the bottles to get the wines out of barrels into bottles, into customers' hands, not getting those bottles in time makes my wine sit in the barrels a little longer than I like. So and all of those things, and that may shift some of the flavor profiles of some of the varietals. So that for me, supply chain issues are still a challenge. Delivery issues, we're going into the holidays, that's always a challenge. So starting to plan ahead. When I talk to my corporate customers, I'm like, hey, gas prices are up. The shipping delivery folks may not have as many trucks. Companies are cutting back on staff. Staffing is another challenge now that I have a retail front, and so making sure I provide, sort of a living wage, a very competitive living wage, looking at offering additional benefits to my staff, just to make sure I retain the talent that I have.
That's great. And are there any other plans? Are you raising money, or are you doing?
Well, you know what? I'm always in the market for additional resources. Anybody listening out there that is looking to invest in a small business, always open. I'm looking. I would love to expand at some point. I have a great concept in terms of the distribution model that we can scale across the country. I'm looking for that large scale retailer to take on the product. So yes, I'm always in the market. So
awesome.
if your pockets are feeling heavy, please talk to me.
Excellent. Well, Chris, I mean, if there are people out there that want to learn more about Wachira Wines and all of the things that the Wachira Group is up to, where's the best place to reach you?
The wachiragroup.com is a great place to learn more about what we do. My direct email address is C for Chris, Wachira, cwachira@wachirawines.com. Buy some wine. That'll be a great way to support me. Get on wachirawines.com and order yourself a wine safari and support me.
Exactly. I think that's the best answer. Start by going on a wine safari with Wachira. Excellent. Well, we've been speaking with Dr. Chris Wachira. She is the founder and chief executive officer of the Wachira Group, which plays really in three areas. They're the first Kenyan American winery in the United States. They're the first Black-owned and woman-owned winery tasting room. And they're the first Black-owned and woman-owned distributor of wine, beer, and liquor licensed in California. What an incredible journey you're on, Chris. I'm so excited to hear how this goes. And I'm definitely ordering some Wachira wine today. So thank you so much for being on Uncaged, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Cheers.